who could forget some of the best and worst anime to come out 5 years ago? More specifically, the best and worst anime of 2020. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. But more specifically, just talking about the worst anime of 2020 to be exact. Now, I've already made a list of this like literally 5 years ago. I actually opened up my Google Docs because I actually kept track of like what I consider to be the best and worst animes to come out of the year. And this you could probably just it'll be a three-parter anime video release. So bear with me as I will basically be going deep into what I consider to be the top five worst animes of 2020 in a nutshell, based off of what I put down 5 years ago. So, without further ado, I'm going to bust open some Topster, my Google Docs, and we'll get right into it. So, here we go. Here's my Topsters. Here's my worst anime list, as I can confirm right here and now. And I just want to get out of the way some quick honorable mentions because originally I did make a top 10 of this. So, we're just going to breeze through the bottom five. So, at the bottom five, we had this Chi-chan Kaihatsu Miki Hentai, which is essentially just NTR slop in a nutshell. At the ninth spot, we have Shiro the Giant and the Castle of Ice. This was a show that was 4 minutes. This was literally a 4 minute episode long show. Each episode being 1 minute long. It's many of us felt like a mobile app anime type of anime. That's pretty much it. Number eight will be Emo the Emotion. Easily one of the worst anime hentai to come out of the year. I still remember it to this day, given like it was super weird, really gross, has some of the weirdest, disgusting fetishes you could ever watch in a hentai. Um, and that's that. Number seven would be Danmachi Season 3. Again, I've talked about it already in the previous video and many other Danmachi videos before it, but this is considered to be the worst season of Danmachi in a nutshell. At the time, it still is to this day, unfortunately, for all the crazy storytelling and gish gallop that the show's trying to push at the time. And finally, at the number six spot, a show that surprisingly didn't make it to my is not going to make the top five, Marudose Kintaro. Yeah, this one is a pretty big shocking one because again, this to me is just the definition of a shit post. Basically, it's just shit post the anime and trying to be as offensive in the worst way possible. And what's kind of funny is that it's under seven studios that was also in charge of Inmo, the hentai that I talked about earlier. But yeah, this one did not make it to my top five because honestly, there have been worse shows come out that year that are deserving of that list. So without further ado, let's get into the real top five. So I'm on Topsters. So the way we're gonna do is that number one's gonna be here, number five's gonna be here. So and I'm gonna go through this without looking at my docs, as you can see. But at number five, I would have to put down Noblies. This show right here, easily considered one of the biggest disappointments to come out of that year. Had a lot of hype surrounding the manhwa itself, and when this show came out, everybody hated the show. Everyone was throwing tomatoes at it because it pretty much was taking it had all the good qualities of a good anime, and they just ruined it with this disappointing slop of a show. This was basically Ninja Kamui before Ninja Kamui even existed, mind you. And it's such a shame because Nobody's had so much hype surrounding it at the time, and I remember that when the show finally came out, it became such a boring, dreadful show to even bother checking out. And that is saying a lot for a show of this caliber. At number four, oh, yep, number four, I think a lot of people are going to be pretty pissed off at this take, but do you remember this show, The God of High School? This show was. This show should have been great. This was like touted as a potential anime of the year to come out back in 2020, and the fact that it had all the DNA for a great and amazing anime. The fact that this was animated by Mappa Studios, you had amazing voice acting. The art style was so out of this world and creative. But the thing that, like I said, a lot of people hate about the show, and I agree to this day, is the storytelling, the way it progresses the show. it was such a massive disappointment in general. Like, if you thought you were disappointed with Noblesse when it came out, nah. Look no further than the God of High School. This was a show that was a runner-up for best anime of that year, and it completely squandered that opportunity after it came out. And that's what I will leave it as. That in general, between Noblesse and the God of High School, you could kind of take your pick. You can switch them around, and they're kind of fighting the number 5 and 4 spot. So at the number 3 spot, moving on, is a show, or I don't even say a show. It's a movie. A movie that I consider to be one of the best fun bad movie experiences I had the pleasure to watch as of late, and it's The Island of Giant Insects. Oh shit. Okay. Let me see. Oh wow. Okay. Well, I don't know if I can actually bring pop this up, but all right. But yes, the Island of Giant Insects movie. This movie was so bad that this movie was has lived on in infamy for being one of the worst animes to come out over the last 5 years. And man, it's crazy. It's not even popping up unless I do it like this, maybe. Oh, there you go. But yeah, this movie was terrible. It was trash at the time, and the fact that it was pretty much a continuation of like where it left off in 2019 with its OVA special episode really speaks volume to like how bad of a movie this was when it came out. Again, really bad animation, really bad like fan service galore. This movie had a ton of fan service that was so unnecessary. A lot of like really gross and unappealing scenes, and yeah, this movie became one of the best fun bad movies I've seen that year, and even rewatching it as of late, I this was a joy. This was incredible to watch. I absolutely liked this movie in the best fun bad movie you can imagine. And again, if you could sit through the horrible, shitty CGI and all the really fucked up death scenes that come up in this movie, I think that this is going to be more of a fun bad movie experience than like a movie that you're just going to suffer through and just like want to not want to be here anymore, I guess. But yeah, Island Giant Insects would be at number 3, which makes you wonder what could be at the number 2 and the number 1 spot. Well, at the number 2 spot is a show that when I went back to looking at my list here, I was a little skeptical at first if this was even accurate. But the more I thought about it, the more it's like, yeah, I remember watching this show and I had to erase this from my memory. That is Ninja Collection. Man, do you remember? Does anyone all remember Ninja Collection? Because I sure haven't. This anime was atrocious. This was like PowerPoint slide the animation. This was bad. It was trying to also be like really cool and epic, and also trying to be scary and spooky at the same time with its weird psychological horror aspects, and it fails in every way, shape, or form. The anime makes no sense. The story makes no sense. The characters are super ugly and really animated poorly. This is like what would happen if you decide to elevate the Island Giant Insects and just squeeze it down to its lowest common denominator. This anime was absolutely terrible. And the fact that this came out from a pretty big studio at the time, if I'm not mistaken, is pretty mind boggling. Because Ninja Collection just feels like, once again, like another shit post kind of anime, like Maruda Sekintaro, where at least with Maruda Sekintaro, there was a reason why this was a shit post anime and no one liked it. On Ninja Collection, there's nothing really a lot to talk about or get hyped about as to why you want to watch a show. Again, if you pretty much want to waste your time and energy watching Ninja Collection, go for it. This is probably one of the worst animated shows and experiences you're going to experience to come out of that 2020 year. And then at the number 1 spot, the number 1 spot is pretty infamous. I think this one needs no introduction at this point because it's been talked about in many numerous worst animes of 2020 at this point, and it's a show that, looking back at it, kind of looking at what we have here, I think we can agree it is definitely the worst anime of that year, GB8. Yep, GB8. This is without a doubt one of the worst animes to come out of 2020. From its super, and I mean super outdated animation art style that feels like it's from the 2000s, trying to be like 90s aesthetics type of animation art, to the voice acting being like it's credible, it's fine, but then you have the story, which the story is so weird. Like it involves time traveling, a samurai, some fantasy shit, but then they're in a post-apocalyptic world, and basically the samurai traveled forward into time, into the future to fight off these bad guys, and it's so weird. It's one of the most confusing stories to ever come out, with such dog shit animation that again makes Ninja Collection look like a fucking masterpiece compared to what you had to sit through with GBA. This was absolutely horrendous. It still is one of the most horrendous animes to come out of that year, and there's a reason why it is at the number one spot. Again, you could probably pick your litter as like maybe one of these, the two below would be the worst anime of that year, but I think that looking back at GBA, looking at some of the episodes prior to me making this list, yeah, GBA definitely stands out at the number one spot as the worst anime to come out of 2020 that year. And same with all these other shows that were in the top 10 in general. But yeah, this right here is my top five worst animes to come out of 2020. See it, weep it. If you agree on it, if you disagree on it, and then yeah, just wanted to share this because I figured, you know what, it's time for me to dust off the good old like list that I had made from back in the day from my Google Docs, as you can see. And I have more. I have a best trash anime of 2020, a best anime of 2020, and I have a ton of lists that I made from last year and years prior. So I actually want to see if talking about these shows are worth mentioning again, and I actually want to start sharing it because I'm kind of late to the anime reviewing game, but I figured it's more than time to talk about it because I'm kind of making videos now, I suppose. So yeah, just want to talk about the worst anime of 2020. See you around when I talk about the best trash anime of 2020, and of course the best anime of 2020. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Later.